back into this? How do we grab more of them into these conferences, show them that it's just not an old man's realm? Doing things like these podcasts are very important to help reach out to these younger people as well, because it's more in their scope, and it's more of how they operate. So this is definitely something that's good to do. But Jerry just was like, what are some of these ideas? I want to get into the colleges. I want to have presenters come to these universities and meet with their faculty and their staff. Says, hey, this is a great organization, the IECA. We want to come in and do a class with your team or with your students, and just show them what it's about, talk to us about, and see if they get interested. If they're interested in it, come on over and we'll show you that.
Hey there, welcome to the Stormwater World podcast. Shout out to our sponsor, Bloxam & Company. They have a sediment and erosion control stormwater inlet filter that's made of coconut fiber. I've known Eric Pierman and the gang over there at Bloxam for years. We've done business with them in the past, and we continue to do business with them to this day. It's a great product, and it's very simple to install. It comes in pads or rolls that you can customize to just about any stormwater drain, and it's very, very simple to maintain as well. You get a great visual when driving your site because you don't have to stop and look down into the drain. You can literally just put this product over the top of the drain inlet, and then you're going to see the sediment on top of it. After a rain event, you can have someone sweep it off and get prepared for the next event. They also offer a free sample, so make sure to check them out. You can go to bloxam.com, that's BLOCKSOM.com, or you can contact them at 219-363-0206, or shoot Eric an email at eric.pierman, that's PEARMAN, at bloxam.com. He can answer any of your questions you may have, as well as let you know where the closest distributor is in your area. Thanks. Let's get back to the episode. Everybody, welcome back to a new episode of the Stormwater World podcast. With me today is Dan Strauss. Dan's the business development manager for Syman Company. How are you, Dan?
Just fantastic. Yourself?
Good, man. Good. So last time I saw you was in February at the IECA, right?
Yep. Got to listen to you give your spiel about your book and try to sell all your services.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's right. You got to listen. That's very rare that I get to sing and dance like that. So that was pretty cool. So that was great. I guess before we get into it, let me give, albeit a very brief bio that you provided me. Everybody gets a bio on this podcast, as everybody knows. So Dan has 8 years in the stormwater industry, but over 30 years in the construction world. And Dan loves the challenge of problem solving complex issues and efficiencies. So let's talk about some of those complex problems that you I think this is going to be an interesting episode because we're going to mix in business development and a little bit of marketing, and then we want to talk. I know you want to talk about some AI in our industry. Where would you like to start? Since we don't have 4 hours, we could do it. We could pull off a little Sean Ryan episode and just crank out 4 hours on all things, solve the world's problems.
Yeah, I think I'll get a little hungry by that time and I'll want to be done. But I like to, maybe we can start talking about the business side of it and where companies are and at what point are you, or how do you grow, and at what point are you trying to bring in more of a professional side or more qualified than people yourself in order to help grow that company or grow the business. It's something that I've spoken with the IECA chapter president multiple times about. It's one thing that seems to be missing from all the erosion control worlds or the erosion control conferences, and in that world is we talk about all these different products and applications and case scenarios, but we're really not talking about business. We're not talking about why. We're all here because we want to make money, right? And we're all here to try to make money. And a lot of these techniques are really cool, and I like a lot of different things. I like implementing new stuff, but the ultimately is, we're trying to make money and try to grow a business and try to effectuate change in other people. So that's something that I don't think is talked about enough within conferences, or at least within groups of people or individuals that might need help, but not realize that they need the help. So,
It's an interesting point because so let's back up for a second. So which chapter?
We're in the Pacific
Specifically?
Northwest chapter, so we're located here in Idaho. Our main
Gotcha.
office is in Nampa, but Boise is the main area that people know about. The Pacific Northwest is the Oregon, Washington, and Alaska, and so we have a relatively diverse group of people that we work with. But since we go to the international conferences often, we get to interact with a lot of the other areas, and we go to the Mountain West or the I guess it's called the Mountain West or Mountain States one every
Gotcha.
once in a while. So we get exposure to a lot of different people, but still, we're not hearing a lot of we're not hearing a lot of um, speeches or at least classes on business within this world because it's very niche work that we do. It's not something that you're going to pull off a shelf and like, hey, this is how you operate, a manufacturing
Right.
business. This is how you do, a print shop. This is environmental erosion control. Not a lot of people do it. So
Right. Right. So and then President. Now is that Adam you're talking about? That you talk is that
the
who
chapter
you're talking about?
president, sorry, I meant the IECA president, and his name's just
Oh,
escaped me.
Jerry
Yeah,
on
Jerry.
the Jerry Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry and I have spoken a couple of
Oh,
times
okay.
about this. He came to
Oh,
visit
okay.
us. It was last year's regional conference, and we spent a lot of time talking about that. And then at this last IECA conference, we were speaking again about this. But the chapter president, also our CEO of our company, Adam Lyman, we
Yeah.
talk about this as well, and something that he's very interested in because he started the company that we're in now. One thing that just kind of add to it is our company's been in business for 18 years, but we just became an employee-owned company last year, and our anniversary just happened, and so we're getting our first distributions in June,
Oh,
and which is
nice.
awesome because we went from having two people in the business, and now we have about 85. And
Yeah.
that's a lot for an erosion control company. And I know our company couldn't necessarily exist in other states because of monopolization of the type of services that we do. But it's still an important thing to talk about in business.
I'd be interested to know, like, so Jerry's been on he came on the pod, so because we wanted to talk about, the kind of like the 30,000 foot view and of being part of the ICA and how can it affect your career and just being a part of the organization as well as going to the national conference. What was his take, if you don't mind me asking, when you're in your all's discussion about around um, what you're saying about building businesses and the fact that there's not presentations about it? Because I've got an opinion on that, but I want to hear how that conversation worked, and then I'll tell you what I think from what I've seen in my couple of years being hanging
Yeah,
around.
yeah. The conversation with Jerry was sparked more. I was bringing up about how to grow your business and how to make sure that we can keep this business not just relevant but flourish. And he jumped right on that and saying, we need to get these kids, we need to get youth back into this program. I'm part of the AGC, the American General Contractors Association, and they have scholarships just similar to the ICA, where they're trying to reach out to universities and get people with construction management degrees or various other accreditations towards construction to get them to come in and be in construction. Well, his opinion about it, at least the opinion he was sharing with me at the time was, oh, how do we get these kids, more of these youth back into this? How do we grab more of them into these conferences, show them that it's just not an old man's realm? Doing things like these podcasts are very important to help reach out to these younger people as well, because it's more in their scope and it's more of how they operate. So this is definitely something that's good to do. But Jerry just was like, what are some of these ideas? I want to get into the colleges. I want to have presenters come to these universities and meet with their faculty and their staff. Says, hey, this is a great organization, the IECA. We want to come in and do a class with your team or with your students and just show them what it's about, talk to us about, and see if they get interested. If they're interested in it, come on over and we'll show you that. And I like that idea, and it helps keep the fresh for lack of better terms, the fresh meat to come back into the warehouse here.
Right.
You know, I may look young, but I'm definitely older than what a lot of people think I am. But I've been in construction, like you're saying, for 30 plus years, and it just makes sense to kind of continue in it. I've been able to be fortunate enough within this business to start out just estimating everything, all the work that we're coming out, just estimating, into migrating into. I'm now in our executive team. I do all of our business development. I help our areas grow, help market their growth, and also to come up with new techniques and opportunities for them to be able to make money. So how can I also help with that for the greater community at large? And the conversation I'm having with Jerry was when we were right on. We were seeing eye to eye with how we can do this.
So as far as going back to, the conference structures, I feel like the majority of the attendees at our conferences, because I love this idea, this would be fantastic because I spent so much time on the sidelines, not speaking in my previous life, just because the conferences are supposed to be and the information provided, educationally driven, not sales driven. And I think it could still be educationally driven, but if we could drive some of that toward what you're saying about, growing some of these companies and how to get the message out and just, but the challenge becomes, like I said, a lot of the attendees, they aren't working for these companies. They're not trying to grow a business. They're just trying to, do their job and understand the industry. So do you feel like in what you've seen, I think there's probably a room for it. Maybe not a full track, but I would love to see a breakout where we could talk directly to vendors and the people that are there and have them get in a room and just hash out ideas and what's working and what's not and how we could all work together. Is that something that, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I would think that, when I'm looking at statistically speaking of who's all at these conferences, the regional one is a little bit different because we have more of a personal relationship with those people. But as far as the international conferences, yeah, I don't, as percentage of who in there is a business owner or at least looking to, grow their business, it's probably less than 30%. But the application of like, for example, the last conference, they were showing a new, it's not necessarily new technology, it's old technology in the pool world, but in the environmental world, they're talking about how to change or make water less turbid by using electricity. And I can't remember the unit they called it, but they were,
Oh
had this
yeah.
unit, water pass through it, changes the electrons and neutrons and makes the water less turbid. That's a great idea, but guess what? You have to sell it. And what is, selling it is not just as you have to
So-
sell that to people. And so you're more than just demonstrating something to say, this is how you do your job. But it's like, I am trying to show you how to do your job. And this is how you can make money doing it, or that we can make money doing this as well. And so if you just maybe tweak the format instead of like, hey, look at this product, it's like, hey, this is a really cool product. I know you like it, but what are some techniques in order to get this in front of more people? How do you can't just go to a conference and say, cool, check this out. And everybody's like, oh, that's neat. You need to have a more sales oriented ideas or marketing. How do you market this? And so
right,
having
right.
classes, I think, to help people understand these things.
That's because there's a couple of marketers here talking because we know we're good people and we're not out there trying to get anybody. But most people they're afraid of salespeople, right? They want to run the other way. So I'm
Yeah,
always like, hey, go talk to the vendors. We're in stormwater. There's no POs, right? They
yeah.
can't get your credit card. Like they want to educate you on this stuff. But I think what you're talking about too, just to kind of circle back for a second, is were you talking about like the electric flocculant
Yeah, yeah,
generator?
yeah. I couldn't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
the
that
name of it. I
Barry,
wasn't in the class. I just heard about it
yeah,
from our
yeah,
other team.
yeah. Shout out to Barry Fagan, as a buddy of mine, and Fagan Consulting. He's the one working with Auburn University on that. So that's the electric flocculant generator. So
Yeah,
yeah, but
an awesome
and
idea. In the
Yeah.
pool, I used to build pools prior to, well, a couple of jobs prior to, and we used the same technology in order to chlorinate, and you'd add salt to the water, and the conductivity of the salt water would help sterilize the water. It's not necessarily new technology, but unless it's sold, unless it's marketed, what are you going to do with it? How
Right.
is it going to get into people's hands? And so that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
No, I love it. I'm so glad we're doing this because I feel like I could stand on the roof, the hilltops or the rooftops or whatever, scream at the rain and be like, "Hey, man, you can have the best idea in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then no, then
Yeah,
nobody knows about it, right?"
yeah,
And you can have a mediocre, like not that you want mediocre stuff, whatever, but best known beats best, hands down,
yep,
every day.
yep.
And I'll say it again, best known beats best. And if you're scratching your head on that one, I'll let you think, let you folks out there think about that. But it's true all day long. So if you've got the best product, you need to get out there and uh, and do all the things. Um, so let's go into because you kind of mentioned like the point of which an inflection point, and I'd like to know where that's stemming from. I don't know if you've spent all 8 years of stormwater with Syman, or if there's been some other companies. But when you say like when you get to that point and you're saying, hey, what can we do to increase our skill set, or do we need to bring in more professional people? I know you don't mean like, hey, we're not professional enough to do this. I think it's
No,
more of
that
like
is what
do
I mean. That is what I mean.
like hey,
Um,
we're just construction guys that
yeah.
are
Well,
in the
and
erosion control. And no, but I mean, like, yeah, let's just unpack that a little bit. Like I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
well, let's I'm going to give you the little bit of the story, and I'm going to edit out all
The
the
cuss
sad
words.
part, of what's going on. Every business has its growing pains, right?
Sure.
And you're either
Yes.
in business because you have a great idea and you want to do something with it, or you're in business to influence people in order to help them to change, or you're in business just because you just fell into it and your mom and your dad told you, hey, or you're just entrusted to do it. Obviously, there's other types of business, or not other types, but different ideas of business ideas you have. Um, but this business itself, it started out, like I said, with just two people working. And within a couple of years, they were about four or five. But it wasn't until about 6 years ago, 5 years ago, that we were like, you know what? We can make a difference, not in just the world that we are working, the environmental world, but we can make a difference with people's lives. And more companies, I think, need to. I I say this with just a little bit of not a grain of salt. I say this with the caveat is I 100% believe in large businesses. We need big businesses, but just as importantly, we need small businesses that are going to help influence younger people to be better people. And so if you aren't good enough in business, you need help. If you feel like you want to grow, you need help. You need people who are more qualified than you. We recently have come up with a hiring matrix where it tries to remove personal opinions about somebody based off of preconceived notions, or somebody had said something about this person. We need to strip away a lot of our opinions and look at, is this person qualified to do this task, this task, this task, and this task? And if they are, um, that's great. This is who we want to achieve these tasks. If you go through the hiring process and they check off all these boxes, let's take them to the next level. Then the next level has another set of matrices that we go through in order to for the kids out there, suss out the lower tiered people that we don't necessarily want. We want high caliber people who are going to push the boundaries of business. And in doing so, it pushes us further and makes us more effective. So when you say like, "Oh, we're not good enough," it's true. My skill set is only good enough to a point. So I need to look at somebody who's going to take us to the next level. If I am the problem that's keeping us from moving, I need to be self-aware of that, and acknowledge it, and either step up and educate and myself and look at expanding my skills, or I need to say, Jim Bob next door is much better at this. He needs to take us forward. And I think the
Yeah.
more honest we are with those conversations, the better our businesses will be, and the better our employees will respond to change that needs to happen. Because everybody knows in business, change happens, but it's hard to get that change to happen, especially big changes. Like for us, when we became employee owned last year, nobody knew what the heck was going on. And even still now, it's still a struggle. People are like, we don't know what that means. Well, we're in our first year, and it generally takes about 3 years for this to happen. So we know we're in it for the long run. But to get that to change and to get people to understand the concept of, what, the time that you're wasting on your job affects your distribution, and it changes how much money you're making. And so if we can get better people into the company, or more qualified people that can help train these new people into the company, or the lower tiered workers, to then expand and their ideas of what business really is and what potential there actually is, then the better your company is going to be. They say that percentage wise, employee owned companies are a certain percentage. I can't remember. Maybe it's 10%, 11% more, has a higher profit or higher revenue and profit because the employees feel responsible for it. Well, you're only going to do that if you feel like you actually have, say or buy into the company. And if you don't have the type of caliber of people who want that, then you just need to look for better people. I know it sounds kind of rough, but it's just true. It's a fact of business. Business is business.
Everybody's gonna be like, man, that guy's a straight shooter, that Dan. But you know what, you just said a whole lot of stuff. So let me back up on a
Sorry, I've
couple of
talked too
things.
much. I'm known to talk
No, you're
forever.
good. One, I've been part of an ESOP. I thought it was fantastic. I agree with all the things you said about ESOP, an employee owned, pension situation with basically it's like rev sharing or whatever. And I think it's definitely going to get cooler and cooler for your folks as you guys start having
Oh, sure.
parties when the share price comes out and the share price is going up and all those things that go along with that. And yeah, it's fantastic. But I've also seen a company, relatively small company in the industry that was in turn into a much bigger company. And in my opinion, I've watched it. I kind of watched it lose its way. And so in the hiring matrix and kind of removing some of those personal things, and I get a lot of that, and I definitely respect all those things. But how do you retain your culture? You guys
Yeah.
have to, guys and gals there at your company, you guys have a culture, and that's part of what makes you successful. So how do you, you said you're being rough, but you're just being, kind of straightforward about it. But how do you do that and still maintain the culture that created the initial success that is Syman, right? Or is any company?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's
what
a
are your thoughts on
very
that?
there is no secret sauce to how to maintain a culture, in my opinion.
Right?
I'm not saying I've gone to plenty of management training and how to get employees to do what you want or do what you need in order to make the company grow. But very few techniques are like, hey, how do you make? Because we started off as a mom and pop, and we still have a mom and pop feel where people still. We'll just say it this way: we have people that have quit in the years past and have asked to come back to work for us. Or when we put out a job, they're like, hey, well, they're applying for it. And I'm like, why is it that somebody that quit from us wants to come back and works for us? What is it about us? Or what is it about a company that wants people to come back? And a lot of it has to do with autonomy. I feel, at least that's what the big the big roles that we have here is. A lot of us have the autonomy to make decisions and to do what we need to do without feeling like we're being micromanaged. Now, there is a very, very fine line of autonomy and not doing your job. And how do you balance that between not necessarily, you need to hold people accountable. Yes, they have to be held accountable to the processes, but it's the term, give them enough rope to hang themselves. Is here's the rope that you need to do your job. Here's the tools you need to do your job. and then walk away. Act like they know what they're doing. Give them the autonomy and the platitudes to accomplish their job. And then you have to follow up with them on a regular basis in a non overbearing way of like, hey, why isn't this done right now? We need this done right now. Unless, of course, it's something that has a timeline that needs to be done in a specific time frame. It's here's all the tools you need. And I think that's a struggle with a lot of businesses is they don't give people all the tools. They give them the autonomy, but not the tools. And without the two of them, they're just like, what do I do? What do I do with my time? Oh, look, here's Facebook. No, we need to keep you on task by giving you the appropriate tools. And then, so you have autonomy, you have tools. And then the last thing is just the leadership of the company, whether it's a one-man show having 2 or 3 people, whether it's a corporate company, whether it's ours where we're still a mid-sized company, is the leadership has to demonstrate 100% at all times, if not more so, where the company's supposed to be going and how and what it's supposed to look like. If a leadership role is seen as talking negatively to employees, you've just wasted a month's worth of work in that 1 second. Because just like the whisper game, where you start saying one thing, by the time it gets back around, you're like, that's not what I said. Well, that's exactly what happens within a company. If a leader in the company says one thing that is his opinion, but it is a negative opinion, it has a negative effect on somebody else, guess what that other person is going to hear? Oh, they hate you. They don't like you. No, I was saying that you could have done a little bit better of a job. Good job, but could have a little bit better. And so little things like that the leadership team has to exemplify where the company's supposed to go. I think with those things, you can kind of keep that culture of a company that doesn't lose its way.
Yeah, visions. I think the vision is, like you're saying, the vision is huge. Vision is huge, and then kudos in public, and then criticism in private goes a long way.
Yep. Always treat them like they are trying to do their best. Especially to strangers. When we have an employee on a site, and this has happened multiple times, an employee on site, a customer calls up or somebody calls up and says, hey, this customer or your team wasn't doing a good job. The first thing out of your mouth shouldn't be like, oh yeah, they're a bunch of morons. It should be, oh, that's unusual. Our team generally is on top of it. But tell me about your concern. Let's talk about that. I completely understand where you're coming from. We're definitely going to talk to them. And then you go and talk to your employee and says, hey, tell me what happened. Don't come in with the accusation of like, you screwed up, you're about to be fired. And obviously, there's cases where that needs to happen. And I'm not saying that doesn't.
Right.
But it's, we're humans.
You gotta have people's back. Yeah, you gotta have people's back. People need to know that you've got their back, right? They don't want to be hung out to dry. We kind of jumped right into this. I'd like to give you a chance, and even mainly because I don't really know if I know all the things you all do, but I know you're in Idaho, and it looks like you guys service that entire region. So Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, as well as Idaho. But do you want to do just like a 2-minute elevator, like who is Syman? What all do you all do? What do you offer to the stormwater world?
Yeah, I mean, Syman Erosion Control. We do anything erosion control will do. We also not dabble. We do a lot of hydroseeding, a lot of stabilization. I guess we dabble in snow management because we are in the Mountain West, and there is snow up in here. So wintertime you got to keep employees doing things. So we do and dabble in snow. But the bread and butter is stormwater management. We design from the ground up our SWIPs, our stormwater prevention plans. We will do all the installation of all of the BMPs, silt fence, straw wattle, inlet bags, blankets, whatever it may be. And we also do the environmental inspections on all of those projects. And so whatever the requirements for on those inspections. We also do a lot of work in the multi-sector general permit area. So any of the sawmills and quarries and places that you're doing a lot of the processing for the rocks or for rock for various whatever construction it is. We do all the permitting for that and the installation of equipment, or not equipment, but BMPs for those things, and all the reporting that's required of that. And then we do a lot of teaching and consulting. I myself teach a lot of municipal classes. For instance, we're in Idaho's Idaho Transportation Department. We teach them their qualified persons training for their stormwater. We also teach so ITD has a requirement in order to do inspections on their sites. You have to have their certification, which is a water pollution control manager. And myself and our CO, we teach that class to now hundreds of contractors throughout Idaho. So we do a lot of the teaching, a lot of consulting work, and we love educating people. Education's free. If you want to talk, you got some questions, I'll give you some educations. But so yeah, that's not necessarily an elevator pitch because we went through probably 12 floors of my discussion, but
yeah. No, I mean, we just kind of jumped right in there. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of background on what all you all did, where you guys were located.
Yep.
It looks like your main office is in
Boise, but yeah,
okay. And then a couple more offices.
Yep. We have 3 locations, Eastern Idaho and Northern Idaho. We are in the process of expanding even further Northern Idaho in the Coeur d'Alene area. But so that way we actually have a physical office so we can achieve better representation to people through northern or the Montana area and the Spokane Valley area. But we do design plans anywhere in the United States. We have an engineer who has a license in a couple of states. We have a contractor's license in a handful of other states. But
okay, yeah. Cool. All right. So you guys, so outside of that area that I mentioned, you guys do other work as well. So that's
we don't necessarily advertise it on our website about the design work, but design work, it depends on what state it's in. We can do it for you.
Gotcha. Well, in our show notes, like, cause again, we talked, we met under the ICA talk when I was doing, talking about our company, digital marketing and how to do digital marketing in the long sales cycle that is stormwater. But in our notes recall, you had mentioned wanting to talk about AI, and I was fortunate to give a presentation on AI and stormwater at the Ohio conference this year. So what do you want to talk about? I'll give you my 2 cents if you give me yours.
Well, this is kind of involved around business and as well with actual operations within inside of the stormwater world. I have a lot of friends who are very tech savvy. They're very into, that type of world. And I mean, I use AI. I use it probably at least once a day, but maybe multiple times a day. And I think a lot of people's ideas of what AI is capable of is not even scratching the surface. Most people are still using AI.
What's your go-to? What's your go-to AI? What are you using?
Perplexity and chat.
Okay.
Perplexity if I want Perplexity for I use Perplexity for more if I'm looking for information that I feel is less going to be less edited, if you know what I mean. But I use ChatGPT for functions and for executing tasks, and that's one thing to kind of to talk about. A lot of people are still using AI. They'll bring up ChatGPT on their phone and they'll say, "Hey, give me some suggestions of restaurants around me." Well, Google's, I can't remember what Google uses with their
Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini. So Gemini will do that. Siri will do that now if you've got the most recent iPhone. And so they all are kind of utilizing bits and pieces of AI of just like utilizing existing functions that are already there on the internet. You just go Google search a lot of these things. But it's like, okay, I need to create a form that shows this, this, and this, and produces this. Well, I could try to figure it out on YouTube. I could try to ask a bunch of people. I could go into what is it called? Power Apps on Microsoft 360 and go try to develop something. Or I can ask AI, give it some prompts, give me a response, and then start communicating with it to try to focus those prompts to how to get the results that you're looking for, as far as how to produce something or a form of some sort, how to execute Excel tasks. and actually having them execute those things. And I've recently gotten into having it program to extrapolate information from other, and this is something that was talked about, was it 2 years ago in the conference, ICA conference in Kansas City.
Oh gosh.
It was
Okay.
it was a very well attended class, but it was right on the edge, and we were already playing with this. Is I want AI to go check out municipalities' websites, go scan through their documents about stormwater or even state codes, and I want you to extract what it is required in there, and I'm going to take the parameters of this project, and I want you to go say what is required in this design based off of that state or that municipality's requirements, and populate to me how this needs to be, how this design needs to be written up, or what are some of the specific requirements as compared to this state or municipality. And we're seeing a lot of success in that, but it's a trial and error, and it's a lot of programming that you get it to do, and you don't have to know how to write SQL, not SQL. Well, yeah, you can do SQL, but you don't need to know how to write through what's
JSON
the open?
scripts.
Yeah, the different types of scripts that use the open source. And I should know that Linux. You don't need to know how to write Linux scripts and things like that to do things. You can use AI. You just tell it how to do it, and it'll either tell you how to do it, or it'll execute a lot of the tasks. And so that's where AI could do a huge leg up for environmental stuff, is because one of the biggest problems, and this is another topic, is we're here in Boise or in Napa. Napa municipality has some rules and regulations for Napa itself, right? Well, they have an MS4. I'm assuming everybody on this podcast is going to know what an MS4 is. At least hopefully they do.
They should.
Um, they might have an MS4, but it's not that strict. But say Boise, so they're the capital of Idaho. They have an MS4, right? Well, they also have Ada County, which is the county that Boise's in. They have an MS4. Well, then Idaho Transportation Department runs right through the middle of both of these things, so they have an MS4. Now we have the state IPD, or the IPDS permit as well. Well, what am I supposed to do if my project goes through this site and interacts with this intersection? What are some of the rules and regulations that we need to do? Well, we've been in business forever. It seems like forever. We know this in our heads, but how do you translate what's in our head onto paper without you asking me a question that's going to trigger the response? And so AI can help find that information. So people who want to work in other states, and I know this sounds like I'm trying to encourage competition, and I need competition, because competition, one, keeps me honest, and two, makes it so I stay relevant enough to make money. I very much believe in the best man wins. That doesn't mean that there aren't other players, because there's always a second, third, fourth, and fifth place. And but you need to, if you want to be the best, you need to act like the best. And so AI can really help you with that, because it takes something that used to take months to figure out, and it can be computed within hours now.
Or not even that long. But you mentioned before giving your employees tools, and I think that is that number one, everybody needs to just, they don't have to fully embrace it like you have and I have. I use it daily, personally, professionally. I'm all over all of them, and but I always fall back on Chat GPT. I always come back to OpenAI because it just keeps getting better.
It's
But
scary too,
again, you
though.
mentioned tool. Yeah, that's another conversation too. But but as far as a tool for new employees or onboarding, some of the things you were talking about, I mean, the learning curve of stormwater, when you can upload documentation to a custom GPT and train it to see the differences, or even if you had boundaries from the MS4 from the city level to what the county is responsible for, to what the DOT is responsible for, and then the different variances and different things that you guys have written up. And you can just create this whole tool that provides a database to your employees to where they can ask it questions. And not only is it making them faster, whereas they may have sent somebody that's been around longer, or to you or to somebody, they're sending an email, and now it's that person's out the next day, and dragging on and on and on, to where you've created this database of information based on your all's knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
that person's, got the answer. They
Yeah.
didn't have to send three people an email, or one person email that forwarded it to the next person that came down to their office and answered it. Right? Like,
Yeah. You
there's
can,
just so much leverage that's available.
if it's possible to get and I use this as an example within our company as the owner of our company, or the CEO of our company, not the owner, we're all owners. The CEO of our company, Adam Lyman, he has more experience in the stormwater world than a lot of people do. How do we extrapolate that information out of his head? Unless he's sitting here with me training me, it's like, how do I get that experience? Well, if I could take case scenarios, lesson or not lessons, but speeches he's given,
Yep.
presentations he's done, combine that into
Exactly.
AI and make it a
Yep.
searchable thing to like, oh, what about how do you deal with cofferdams within a creek in the mountains? What's some good ideas to build that? And instead of him having to be there and sit down with you and spend the time, it's like, oh, here's a model that has been done, and here are some ideas and suggestions on what to do and what to look for. Another thing with it is it's hard in the environmental world. There's acronyms for everything, right? Um,
Right.
and
Just
how
a
do you
glossary, just
search
creating a stormwater glossary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, but like if I'm
Yeah.
looking through documents to look at how do I make sure I'm looking at the correct items to bid to a client who's asking for this. For example, we're working on a job in Oregon on the Oxbow Dam where it has turbidity monitoring. Well, if you don't know to look for turbidity monitoring, why would you look for it? I mean, it makes sense to me because I've been in construction forever. They're redoing a spillway. And when you're doing a spillway, I'm like, okay, they're probably going to be needing to do dewatering. I'm probably going to need monitoring. I know that just because of my experience. But with a new person coming in and I get a job, and like I said, we've got 85 employees, how do they know to come talk to me about that very thing? Or how do I know that they're even bidding that? I'm not involved in bidding their projects. So, but what they can use is a database of projects like, hey, I'm gonna, they have Adobe has their own AI now where it says, hey, sum up what I'm reading. Well, if I could take this, put it in a module that we've built, says, hey, look for anything that is in the wheelhouse of what we do, and tell me about it. Now, is it 100% accurate? No, it's not going to be 100% accurate. But is this guy 100% accurate? I'd like to say I am, but that's also would be pretty
Yeah.
overly confident. But no, I'm not
It
100% accurate. But it
it
helps
still needs to
make
be
things be
it's
efficient.
yeah, it still needs to be edited and whatnot. Like, what I try to explain to everybody too is, like, a lot of people at this point have maybe had a bad experience, or like they didn't appreciate the output that they got from the AI, or it was too flowery, it didn't sound like them, it sounded blah 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 blah, right?
Hmm.
And my answer to that is always, like, ask better questions. Ask better questions and explain to the AI what you're trying to do. Give it a role, give it a context. You are an expert, in erosion and sediment control. Give it context of, this is what I want, because it's just, this is what I want. This is the format I want it in. Like, the better, and then ask me any, and then one of the keys too, just ask me any clarifying questions before providing your response, and
Yeah.
it'll do all those things, right? Because and the way you can look at it is like that. Again, we talked about that brand new employee. They could be fantastic, but if it's their first day and you just dumped a bunch of paperwork on their desk and said, I need a report by the end of the day, that report's going to suck. They have no clue. They have no
Yeah.
idea what's going on. It's their first day. You
Yeah.
gave them nothing to go on. That's the same as AI, right? Like, you have to educate the AI on what it's supposed to accomplish. Um, so far as to say, you can actually disconnect, just so everybody knows, because I know there's a lot of fear. Like, there's both sides, right? Some people, like, they just, they're not going to touch AI, and on and on and on. And OpenAI probably has it. Well, at least they did, and I think they still do. I don't know if anybody's caught up, but they probably have the best end user license agreement. What do I mean by that? It's the thing that you kind of sign off on when you sign up for an account on what's going on with the data. So they've got the best. They're, if you believe them, I mean, everything, grain of salt, it's fine. But some of the other ones out there, it's a little bit more, loosey goosey, if you will. And then you can disconnect, like if you create a custom GPT and you upload a bunch of information to it as a database to learn from and to provide you information, you can disconnect it from the internet. Like you can say, hey, do not search the internet. You know, this is your brain. These
Yeah.
documents that I'm giving you. This is all you can go on. So anyways, so if that helps anybody out there that may be struggling with some of that, again, I get it. You know, it still is on the internet. Um,
It's a
but
paradigm shift to
yeah,
not use AI,
100%.
especially if you're more like many people on a conspiracy theory type of mindset, or I love conspiracy theories. I'll suss them out and flush them. I will argue them because they're fun. It's fun to have conversations. We need to
Yeah.
have different viewpoints and ideas from people, but um, um, it can seem like, oh, they're researching into they're listening to me, or they're watching everything I'm doing, but this thing right here is listening to you constantly. You can't turn it off. We are embedded into the digital world. And when I first moved out to where I am, I live just, about 15 miles from here. When I first moved out there was only 1,800 people, and we felt like just a really big family. Here, and I've been out there for 20 years. There's now 25,000 people where I live.
Oh
And
wow.
I've seen so much change. And I've seen, plenty of people move because they didn't want to be part of that change. Well, things change. Things are always going to change. You just need to learn how to embrace it and make money off of it. And so if AI is a change that you can make money off of, let's go figure out how we can make this work for us. If it doesn't work for us, then don't use it. You don't need to use it. I know that's being used. I think it was at the last conference there in Virginia, at the IACA conference, where one of the municipalities were using drones to do inspections, but then they were
Uh-huh.
using the AI software to identify BMPs, so they can be. I'm not sure what they were doing with it, but they talked about how to use it to identify BMPs. I'm like, that's great, but not every inspector needs that. Not every inspector needs to use a drone. I personally believe that doing an inspection requires eyes on. You need to be able to see, because how are you going to see if a BMP is failing, in a small spot with a drone, even if it's only 10 feet off the ground? If there's a weird shadow, how are you going to do that? And how's AI going to identify, hey, there is a corrective action right there? It's not going to. So I do believe that does require eye to eye on that one, but it could still be used. We use, drones at least for our multi-sector permits, where we do surveying, I guess, as well. And we can survey the,
Mhm.
the pits, and the software we use, um, uses AI to identify stockpiles, identify volumes, or not volumes, but cuts and fill areas, identify flows. They're using AI to do this type of work, and it's making us money. It's making them money, and it's just the way of how technology moves, right? We can't pretend like this is still the 1950s in the Industrial Revolution. I loved the 50s. My wife and I felt we were born in the wrong decade, but look how far we've come from even just planes and just aviation, and what things are able to be done now. And we're more efficient. We can pop out a lot more things faster. Our earning potentials are greater. It's a great time to live. We just need to learn how to figure out how to use it. The change.
Yeah, it's definitely not going anywhere, and it's just incredible the things that you can accomplish and the time that you can save
Yeah, could be the
by
demise of us,
by
but
by
might as
embracing
well.
it. Oh, and at some point, that's why I'm nice to it. I do say please and thank you. That way,
I'm sure you've seen those
when the
memes about
optimists,
the robots that are like killing everybody. Says, "Oh, don't shoot him.
yeah,
He said thank you."
yeah, that would just one just came out because Google dropped Veo 3, and people immediately made some videos, and these videos are just unbelievable. Yeah, but there's one, it is hilarious, just like you're saying. Or like, oh yeah, he was nice. He said thank you.
Yeah.
They don't kill that. They don't kill that person. But Dan, hey, it's been a pleasure. What's next for you guys? Are you guys gonna be you guys have any show? You guys going to go? I guess StormCon's in Orlando, so I
Hmm.
assume you guys aren't going to venture all the way to Florida for that, or are you? Or you guys
Maybe,
got
but we're
anything
definitely going
going
to be
on?
going to the conference in Texas. So we'll be going to that one for the next ICA conference.
Oh, okay, sure. Yep,
Yeah, the next
February.
time I say
Yep, in
that
Fort
one.
Worth.
Yep,
Oh
in
yeah,
Fort
I'll see
Worth.
you there. That's in my
Yep,
backyard. Well, I say
perfect.
backyard, Texas terms. I live 5 hours away from Fort Worth. That's still in my backyard.
I'm just looking forward to the barbecue there. I mean, I love
Oh,
barbecuing.
I
And
got you.
side
Yeah,
note that we
yeah.
could spend another hour on. I love the science of barbecuing. And I say I make a pretty good Texas brisket, but I'd like to be in Texas to try their brisket. Sorry, I can't even speak.
Right.
Definitely like to try that.
No,
But
brisket.
yeah,
Hey,
so yeah, we've got a lot of things that I'll be in North Carolina in 2 weeks. I'll be in where am I going? I'm trying to remember where I'm going. Just to North Carolina for an event that we were invited to learn more about some manufacturing stuff. I guess that's part of something that's a big for us is we manufacture our own straw wattle and a couple other things, and so that's kind of a big thing for us is we're bringing on some extra tools and equipment, and we've brought it on. We're trying to figure out how to utilize that and how to expand that realm of things. It's not necessarily connected to Syman. It's a different subsidiary. Or it's a different company that we're working on, but I help with that as well. But for Syman, our next big thing is opening up our fourth location. At that point, it's going to trigger our executive team is going to change a little bit, and so that's what we're looking forward to.
good. I'm excited for you guys. Congratulations on the growth, and I look forward to seeing you in Fort Worth if I don't see you somewhere before then.
Yeah,
And
hopefully.
I think that's the pod, sir. Thank you so much for your time today.
No, I appreciate the time, Ty. Look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Stormwater World Podcast, and a big thank you to our sponsor, Bloxam & Company, home of the coconut fiber stormwater inlet filter that is super easy to install and maintain. Make sure you go check them out. That's Bloxam & Company. You can check them out at bloxam.com. That's BLOCKSOM.com. And we'll see you on the next episode.